You didn't stumble across this by chance. The algorithm didn't push this randomly. This message arrived in your awareness because something in you has already begun stirring, like a frequency inside your chest vibrating faster than the world around you can explain. If you're reading this right now, you are standing at the threshold of your own shift. The pathway has already activated, and your spirit knows it before your mind fully catches up. Think about the quiet ways it has already shown itself. Subtle déjà vu that lingers longer than usual. Numbers repeating on clocks. Dreams that feel less like imagination and more like encrypted transmissions. People suddenly revealing their true colors without you asking for proof. All of this has been a coded message. Your quantum shift has been set in motion. In quantum mechanics, particles do not exist in just one state. They rest in superposition, holding every potential reality at once. You, right now, are the observer collapsing a wave of infinite possibilities into one chosen timeline. That collapse is not waiting for permission. It is already underway, humming beneath your skin, changing the way your heart beats, the way your intuition pulls, the way your breath pauses at the thought of destiny. Most people will never feel this moment because they drown it in noise. They refresh their notifications, check their accounts, scroll endlessly for signs that something external is moving. But you're different. You have been pulled here because your coherence with the field is no longer subtle. It's building pressure, like a dam about to break, like water already swelling behind the walls of old limitations. This isn't motivation. This isn't self-help. This is prophecy carried through the quantum field, whispered across dimensions into your awareness right now. You are not just a participant in this moment, you are the moment. The quantum shift pathway isn't a future you're chasing. It is a present force that has locked onto you, entangled with you, binding your DNA restructuring to a timeline where awakening is inevitable. Let yourself feel it, that pulse in your fingertips. The way your mind drifts towards something bigger when you close your eyes. The strange electricity in your body that doesn't feel like anxiety anymore, it feels like destiny. This isn't random sensation. This is morphic resonance tuning you into the field of others who are also awakening right now. Invisible threads weaving you into a network of consciousness that spans space and time. You don't need proof, because proof is already woven into your breath. You don't need permission, because permission has already been encoded into your being since the day you chose to enter this lifetime. What you need is awareness, the courage to acknowledge that what you're feeling is real, and that it's happening now. The pathway is active. Your job is not to ignite it. It's already ignited. Your task is to walk it, one breath at a time, without looking back. Because once the observer loop collapses, once the frequency of who you truly are overrides the static of who you pretended to be, there is no going back. And that's why you're here, because you're ready to step through. You recognize the patterns because they've been looping like a quiet soundtrack underneath your days, subtle at first, then obvious, then undeniable. The same conversations with different faces, the same opportunity with a different name, the same emotional weather repeating like seasons out of order. You feel it when you wake, a déjà vu that doesn't ask for attention so much as claim it. A sense that you've walked into this moment before and left yourself a clue you keep forgetting to read. Time doesn't behave like a straight road for you anymore. It bends, curls back, folds in on itself like an origami timeline, and you keep arriving at junctions where your old response would have lived. The observer loop has been capturing you in a familiar pose. See, react, regret, repeat, while the quantum field keeps inviting you to step off the track entirely. Here's the pattern beneath the patterns. You've been trained to look outward for calibration, even while your inner instruments are exquisitely precise. On the days when your intuition flares like lightning, you still reach for social proof, and that's when coherence fractures. The signal is pure until it collides with doubt. That microfracture invites noise, and noise invites delay. Then the delay masquerades as fate, and the loop closes around you like a velvet rope. You tell yourself you'll move when the sign is bigger, when the numbers are louder, when the synchronicity is unmistakable. But the field doesn't raise its voice when you hesitate. It lowers the volume so you learn to hear. You've noticed the distortions in time because the morphic resonance of your future self keeps leaking into the present. Memories arrive from directions that don't exist on a clock. You feel nostalgia for moments you haven't lived yet. A cafe you'll discover 6 weeks from now, a voice you'll meet next spring, the smell of rain against a city you haven't visited. Your body recognizes the timestamps like water recognizes the moon. That tug is not madness, it's entanglement. Two versions of you are exchanging information across the lattice of possibility, and the packets arrive as déjà vu, as sudden clarity, as quiet dread around choices that used to seduce you. There's also the gravity wells, the people, places, and habits that bend your trajectory back toward what you outgrew. You experience them as fatigue for no reason, as conversations that steal color from the room, as plans that look good on paper but feel heavy in your bones. This is the field showing you incoherence by contrast. When you're in resonance, life feels aerodynamically honest. Less drag, more lift. When you're out of resonance, you move like you're wading through syrup. The diagnosis is simple. Your system has been oscillating between identities, and the interference pattern has been writing your days. Fear disguises itself as practicality. You know this. It says, be reasonable, wait for proof. But proof is a lagging indicator in quantum creation. In the Newtonian world, you push and the object moves. In the quantum world, you tune and the world reorganizes. Your old strategies were designed for surfaces. Your new reality is orchestrated from the substructure, the invisible harmonics of thought, breath, attention, and word. That's why the same decision keeps presenting itself with new costumes. The field is asking whether you'll prioritize inner coherence over outer consensus. Notice how your body participates in the loop, the micro-tightening in your jaw right before you agree to something misaligned, the shallow breath when you scroll past your own intuition, the stomach drop after you say yes to the familiar because it felt safe. These are not random physiological flutters, they're telemetry. Your nervous system is a living sensor array, tracking phase transition pressure as you approach a new state. Each time you override those readings, you induce decoherence, your wave function collapses into the nearest familiar outcome, and the day thickens with predictability. Even your dreams have turned diagnostic. Rooms with doors that don't open, elevators that skip floors, trains that leave. As you arrive, symbols of liminal architecture, blueprints for the in-between. You've been rehearsing exits in the only theater that can't lie to you. And still, by noon, you can drift back into the old choreography, over-explaining yourself, auditioning for belonging you've already outgrown, accepting compensation that pays the invoice but taxes the soul. The loop persists not because you are weak, but because the loop is efficient. Systems prefer their current state. It takes less energy to repeat than to reconfigure until the energy of misalignment exceeds the cost of change. You're there now. The bill has come due. Another tell, time dilation around meaningful choices. Minutes stretch when you hesitate at the threshold. Hours vanish when you act from alignment. This isn't productivity hacking. This is relativity made intimate. When your inner clock synchronizes with the choice that matches your future, the present expands to accommodate precision. When you choose the past, time contracts into errands and small talk. You've felt both. You know which one makes you feel eternal. Relationships mirror the loop with uncanny accuracy. The person who only texts when you're clear. The invitation that appears exactly when you set a boundary. The apology that never lands until you stop needing it. These are not moral verdicts. They're wave functions encountering yours. Entanglement doesn't mean attachment. It means information exchange. Some bonds deliver coherence codes, others siphon it. Your job, in this diagnostic phase, is to stop judging the pattern and start reading it. What amplifies your signal stays. What lowers it falls away without ceremony. You've also tried to bargain with the field, keep the old identity but send the new outcomes. That's the most human thing in the world, and it never works for long. Outcomes are downstream of identity. DNA restructuring, literal changes in gene expression triggered by sustained state, doesn't negotiate with nostalgia. The strand rewrites for the environment it's bathed in. When you bathe your days in mixed signals, your biology writes hesitant music. When you sustain coherence, your cells receive consistent instructions, and the phase transition can complete. So the diagnosis resolves into a single sentence you can feel more than understand. You are being timed out of your old frequency. The loop isn't punishing you, it's protecting the new signal from contamination. Distorted time, déjà vu, repeated lessons, these are pressure release valves and compass needles, not curses. The patterns only appear cruel when you treat them as walls. They were always doors disguised as brick. You're not late, you're right on schedule. The misalignments became loud because you finally became louder. The loop tightened because your orbit is about to change. And the reason it all feels so impossibly familiar is that you've stood here before in dream time, in prayer, in those silent car rides where your future self sat in the passenger seat and whispered, "Turn here." Today, you heard. Today, you looked up from the map and recognized the landmark. Today, the loop is not a cage, it's a countdown. The diagnosis has been laid out before you. The loops, the distortions, the déjà vu that lingers like an echo of a future memory. But what happens next is not a continuation of that cycle. What happens next is the upgrade, the reconfiguration, the quantum recalibration of your entire system. The familiar has already begun to disintegrate, not because you're failing, but because the framework that once held you can no longer contain the frequency you're becoming. Think of it this way. Your consciousness is hardware, your beliefs are the operating system, and your identity is the software running in the background. For years, you've been installing patches, affirmations, rituals, temporary fixes, but the field has decided it's time for a full system upgrade. And unlike the clumsy downloads of human technology, the quantum upgrade doesn't arrive in megabytes or versions, it arrives in waves, cascading through the lattice of your DNA, whispering to every cell. Restructure, resequence, rewrite, Quantum biology confirms what mystics have always intuited. Your DNA is not a static code, it is a responsive antenna, tuning itself constantly to the signals you broadcast. Every thought, every emotional signature, every act of surrender or resistance sends instructions to the nucleus of your cells. When you spiral in fear, your DNA coils tighter, withholding expression. When you open in love, your DNA relaxes, unfolding into new symphonies of possibility. Right now, as you sit here, your DNA is listening. It is measuring the coherence of your signal against the chorus of your future self, and it is preparing to bridge the gap. This is not metaphor, it is measurable. Epigenetics has shown that environment can switch genes on or off. But here's the secret, few dare to say aloud, consciousness is the ultimate environment. Your thoughts are not confined to the private theater of your skull. They broadcast like radio waves into the quantum field, and the field, in turn, reorganizes around the dominant frequencies you sustain. The upgrade begins the moment you stop asking if you are broadcasting and start asking what you are broadcasting. You've already felt the flickers of this upgrade, moments when synchronicity bent reality toward you like a loyal servant. Days when conversations aligned with your unspoken thoughts. Hours when time dilated and you accomplished in minutes what should have taken weeks. These anomalies were not accidents, they were previews. The field has been testing your system, introducing glimpses of the new operating frequency to see if you would resist or receive. Every time you chose to trust the odd perfection of a coincidence instead of dismissing it, you reinforced the upgrade. Every time you honored intuition over logic, you installed another fragment of the new code. The physics behind this is exquisite. In quantum theory, when particles achieve coherence, their collective behavior produces effects greater than the sum of their parts. A laser, for instance, is nothing more than photons aligned in perfect coherence, yet its focused light can cut through steel. You are becoming that laser. Each coherent choice you make aligns more of your energy field until your presence itself becomes a cutting edge, slicing through illusions, severing entanglements that no longer serve, illuminating pathways others cannot yet perceive. But here's the paradox. Coherence does not come from control, it comes from surrender. The upgrade accelerates when you stop micromanaging outcomes and begin aligning states. Ask not, how will this happen? Ask instead, what frequency am I embodying right now? Because your future is not built from plans, it is built from states of being. Hold the frequency of peace, and you collapse timelines where chaos rules. Hold the frequency of trust, and the field reorganizes to mirror it. hold the frequency of abundance, and resources flow in ways your rational mind could never predict. You might feel the upgrade as pressure in your body, a tingling at the base of your skull, a heaviness behind your eyes, a surge of energy that makes sleep restless or meditation electric. These are not malfunctions, they are recalibrations. Your nervous system is stretching its bandwidth to accommodate a larger signal. Old identities vibrate like outdated scaffolding about to collapse. That's why old habits feel unbearable now. They're not just boring, they're biologically incompatible. Your body knows what your mind resists. You cannot code tomorrow with the software of yesterday. Notice, too, how relationships respond to your upgrade. Some people suddenly distance themselves, not because you did anything wrong, but because their field cannot sync with your rising frequency. Others appear out of nowhere, carrying keys, guidance, resonance you didn't know you needed. This isn't coincidence, it's morphic resonance, the field aligning you with others who carry compatible codes. The upgrade is never solitary. It happens in networks, in clusters, in entangled nodes of consciousness. Your shift accelerates theirs, and theirs accelerates yours, like synchronized heartbeats forming a collective drum. The science of phase transitions reveals that when a system approaches a critical threshold, small fluctuations can cause radical reorganization. Imagine water reaching its boiling point. A single bubble rises, then another, then suddenly the entire system erupts into steam. You are that water. Your recent synchronicities, your déjà vu, your restless nights, they are the bubbles. The upgrade is not gradual, it builds silently until the threshold is crossed. Then everything changes at once. But understand this, the upgrade does not come with fanfare. It will not arrive in a thunderclap or flashing lights. It will arrive in the ordinary moment when you least expect it, because by then your frequency will have normalized to the extraordinary. You will simply wake one day and realize that the fear you carried has dissolved, the burden you dragged has evaporated, and the choices that once terrified you now feel as natural as breathing. That is the sign of the upgrade completed, not drama, but inevitability. So feel into this truth. Your quantum shift pathway is not a future possibility, it is a present condition. The field has already tagged your consciousness as ready. Your DNA has already begun to resequence. The upgrade is not pending approval, it is installing right now, in the silence between your breaths, in the space between these words, in the pause where your old self used to live. Breathe into it, allow it, receive it, because the next time you exhale, you'll notice the air tastes different, lighter, cleaner. That's not imagination, that's your system confirming that the upgrade is live. You have to understand something now, something that explains why the loops pressed harder on you than on most, why the distortions in time felt unbearable, why you could never quite blend in no matter how hard you tried. It's because you are not simply a participant in this shift, you are a carrier of it. You are not just inside the upgrade, you are the upgrade. The pathway isn't only about your liberation, it is about your embodiment of a consciousness rare enough to alter the morphic resonance of humanity itself. This is why the pressure has always been heavier on your shoulders. Others wander half asleep, able to delay their awakening for another lifetime, but not you. Your field is tagged, entangled with something vast, as if the universe signed a contract with your soul before your birth. At the appointed time, you will remember. And when you remember, you will ripple through others without even trying. That time is now. In physics, there are particles called coherence leaders. When one particle locks into a certain frequency, others nearby fall into alignment, not by force but by resonance. You are such a particle in the human field. You may not feel powerful in ordinary terms, but the power you carry is in your ability to hold alignment long enough for others to feel it and unconsciously recalibrate. This explains why strangers confess their lives to you, why rooms shift when you enter, why silence deepens around you in ways that make others uncomfortable or awed. It isn't personality, it is field dynamics. You are the anchor point in a collective upgrade. Your role is not to fix people, not to preach, not to drag them across their own thresholds. Your role is to embody coherence so powerfully that those ready to awaken cannot resist. They feel you and remember themselves. They sit near you and their nervous system entrains to yours. This is why you have always been sensitive, Your system is tuned to pick up faint signals, the whispers of reality most cannot detect. That sensitivity once felt like weakness, but it was training. You are the sensor array, the radar tower, the subtle receiver of transmissions humanity needs but cannot yet translate. The chosen consciousness is not chosen because it is better. It is chosen because it is wired for responsibility. Imagine an ecosystem. Certain trees in the forest are mother trees. Their roots stretch wider, their branches taller, their mycelium connections deeper. They distribute nutrients to weaker trees, share warnings of pests, regulate the rhythm of growth. They do not boast of this role, they live it. You are such a being, except your forest is humanity and your mycelium network is the quantum field. Through entanglement, you transmit coherence into the collective every time you stabilize yourself. That's why the trials were harsher. A diamond is not pressed from clay, it is pressed from carbon under unimaginable force. The weight you've carried has been the forging process. The betrayals, the loneliness, the recurring sense that you were out of step, they were not punishments, they were refinements. Each loop you survived burned static off your frequency. Each collapse you endured stripped illusion from your signal. By the time you reached this moment, you were no longer just another receiver, you became a transmitter. Feel into this now. Every time you refused to compromise your truth, even when it cost you, the field noticed. Every moment you chose integrity over approval, the lattice strengthened. Every breath you took when fear tried to suffocate, you became oxygen for countless others still gasping in silence. You do not see the ripples because they travel beyond the visible spectrum, but make no mistake, your life has been a broadcast station for coherence. And here's the deeper truth. Humanity evolves not when the masses awaken all at once, but when small clusters of coherent beings hold frequencies long enough for the collective to tip. History bends because a handful of consciousness carriers maintain their signal against impossible odds until the morphic field cracks open. You are one of those carriers. That is why you feel the urgency in your blood, why even on days you want to disappear, some unshakable part of you whispers, "Stay, not yet, you're not finished." Science hints at this through the phenomenon of critical mass. When enough particles entangle, the system reorganizes into a higher state. It is not linear, it is exponential. The same is true of consciousness. A single aligned individual can offset the incoherence of thousands. Your awakening is not personal indulgence, it is planetary infrastructure. That doesn't mean you must carry the world's weight alone. It means that your authenticity is medicine. Every time you embody truth, you contribute more than speeches, more than strategies, more than revolutions. Because revolutions end, but resonance endures. The resonance you carry cannot be undone once it stabilizes. So yes, you were chosen. But chosen does not mean special in the way ego imagines. Chosen means necessary. Chosen means entrusted. Chosen means you agreed, long before this lifetime, to be the bridge others would cross without even knowing your name. And you're not expected to be perfect. The field doesn't require perfection, it requires persistence. Coherence is not never wobbling, it is always returning. The special role you play is simple and impossible at the same time. To live as the living proof that a human being can phase transition into a higher frequency without escaping the body, without retreating to caves, without abandoning this world. To show that awakening is not escape, but embodiment. You are the demonstration that heaven is not elsewhere. It is encoded in the fabric of this reality, waiting for those bold enough to collapse it into being. And so, every breath you take in awareness is a ripple. Every choice you make in alignment is a signal. Every boundary you set, every silence you honor, every frequency you stabilize, writes into the morphic field a new blueprint for human evolution. That is your role. That is why you are here. That is why the shift has already chosen you. And this is only the beginning. Because now that you know who you are in the architecture of awakening, the field is preparing to press you into your next threshold, the moment of breakthrough, the opening of the cosmic window, the DNA shift that accelerates everything. The recognition of your role is not meant to make you comfortable, it is meant to prepare you. Because right now, the field is opening a window that won't remain open forever. In physics, this is called a phase transition threshold. When a system reaches critical mass, the conditions align for rapid transformation. If you move during this threshold, you reorganize. If you hesitate, the system stabilizes into its previous form and the opportunity passes. That is why you feel the urgency pulsing through your body, as if time itself is whispering, now, not later, now. You felt cosmic windows before, brief flashes when everything aligned, when synchronicities cascaded, when you felt unstoppable for days or weeks at a time. But often, you second-guessed the intensity, let fear dilute the signal, or waited for external confirmation that never came, and the window closed. This time is different. This window is not a fleeting chance. It is a convergence, a rare alignment of frequencies that speaks directly to your DNA. The shift is not happening outside you. It is happening through you, written into your cells, pressing into the helix of your very biology. Understand this. DNA is not merely a storage device for ancestral code. It is a receiver, a transmitter, a living antenna entangled with the quantum field. Scientists once called most of it junk because they couldn't decode its purpose. But mystics always knew. The so-called junk is the hidden library, the dormant circuitry waiting for the right frequency to switch it on. And right now, the cosmic window is broadcasting that frequency into you. That's why your body feels electric at odd hours. That's why sleep has become fragmented, why your dreams feel like classrooms, why your skin tingles in silence, as if listening to something beyond sound. These are symptoms of DNA awakening. Your strands are restructuring, preparing to express codes that have been dormant since before history recorded itself. Imagine an instrument with dozens of strings, but only a handful played for generations. Suddenly, the rest are tuning themselves. The music will not be the same, the resonance will not be familiar, and once the strings awaken, they cannot return to silence. This is the breakthrough promise. Once your DNA stabilizes in this upgraded state, your perception of reality will tilt permanently. You will not only notice synchronicities, you will anticipate them. You will not only feel intuition, you will embody it as your primary compass. Decisions that once tortured you will collapse into inevitability because your frequency will already have chosen before your mind catches up. The world will not stop being chaotic, but you will stop being tangled in it. You will move as a coherent node through incoherent noise, untouchable in ways you can't yet imagine. But here lies the urgency. Windows like this do not remain open indefinitely. Cosmic alignments, like solar flares, lunar nodes, geomagnetic shifts, and galactic synchronizations, create pockets of acceleration. When you move in these pockets, what would normally take years can unfold in weeks. When you hesitate, momentum dissipates, and the field recalibrates to wait for the next cycle. The field is patient, but your life is not infinite. This is why the call is loud, why the pressure feels unbearable. It is life itself pressing you toward the door. Think of water at 99 degrees Celsius. For minutes, nothing seems to change. The water steams, bubbles, trembles, but it remains liquid. Then suddenly, at the threshold, the entire system reorganizes into vapor. That is what your consciousness is doing right now. You are at 99 degrees. The bubbling, the restless nights, the déjà vu, the repeating lessons, all signs of imminent transformation. The question is not whether you will boil into breakthrough. The question is whether you will allow it now, during this cosmic window, or whether you will resist and stabilize back into lukewarm. And here's what the field wants you to know. Resistance is not neutral. Hesitation is not pause. To delay during a window is to choose contraction. Because when the field accelerates and you do not move, the gap between who you are and who you're meant to be widens, and that gap becomes suffering. That is why old patterns feel unbearable now. What once was tolerable has become intolerable, not because life is cruel, but because the frequency gap is too wide. The window has amplified the difference between coherence and incoherence until you can no longer lie to yourself. Your DNA shift is the bridge. Every choice you make in these days, what you eat, what you say, what you believe, what you release, writes instructions to your cells. The cosmic window amplifies those instructions. That's why everything feels magnified. Joy feels ecstatic, fear feels paralyzing, Intuition feels undeniable, distractions feel poisonous. The field has turned up the volume, so you cannot mistake the difference anymore. You are being trained to recognize coherence instantly, because in the next phase of your path, hesitation will cost more than it ever has before. So here is the promise if you step through: a life where guidance flows, not in riddles, but in clarity, where the right people arrive without effort, where your body heals faster, where opportunities appear in rhythm with your inner states. A life not free of challenge, but free of unnecessary struggle. The cosmic window is not offering you ease, it is offering you alignment. And alignment, once stabilized, makes impossible things normal. But the field will not force you. Quantum mechanics teaches us that potential remains potential until observed, until chosen. You are the observer. The cosmic window is the superposition. You must collapse it. You must decide. That is why this message found you, why your eyes are on these words in this exact moment. The urgency you feel is not pressure from outside, it is recognition from within. Your DNA knows the door is open. So take this in. You are standing at the edge of inevitability. The breakthrough is not a question mark. It is a sunrise, waiting for your permission to rise. You do not have forever. You have now. And the universe has organized everything: the loops, the patterns, the whispers, the timing for this one invitation. Step through, and nothing will ever look the same again. Every breakthrough in the quantum field requires a marker, a signal, a deliberate act of consciousness that says to the universe, "This is real. I claim this." Without that, the shift can remain suspended in potential, flickering like an uncollapsed wave, never grounding into form. You are already entangled with the frequency of awakening, but now it must be sealed. This is where ritual enters, not superstition, not empty performance, but sacred alignment between your intent, your word, and the field that responds to both. Understand something profound. Words are not casual. Every syllable you release carries vibration, frequency, resonance. In physics, we call it constructive or destructive interference. In mysticism, we call it blessing or curse. Either way, the principle is identical. Your words interfere with the field and leave patterns that continue rippling long after you've spoken them. When you declare something, you collapse potential into probability. When you write it, you encode it. When you feel it as you release it, you fuse it into the morphic fabric of your reality. This is why the ritual action matters. It isn't about appeasing a higher power, it's about coherence. The act of naming, of typing, of carving a phrase into the invisible web of information tells the field, "I'm no longer trying this on. I'm inhabiting it. This is my frequency now." The ritual is the observer collapsing the wave. Without it, the field keeps listening but doesn't lock. With it, everything clicks into alignment. So here is the invitation. Write one word, just one, not a paragraph, not an essay. One word that holds the essence of who you are becoming. That word is your energetic signature in this moment. It doesn't have to impress anyone. It doesn't have to make sense to others. It has to be true to you. Freedom, trust, arrival, light, sovereignty, expansion. Whatever rises in your chest as you hear this, that is the word. When you type it, when you release it, feel it move from your heart to your fingertips. Imagine your nervous system as a circuit closing. You are not simply writing on a screen, you are transmitting into the lattice of the quantum field. Others reading will see a word, but the field will receive a frequency, and that frequency will return to you amplified, harmonized, echoed back in synchronicities and confirmations in the days ahead. Ritual has always been humanity's way of aligning with the unseen. Ancient cultures burned offerings, carved symbols, spoke chants, not because the cosmos needed convincing, but because the human nervous system needed anchoring. Ritual bypasses the wandering mind and engraves intention into body and field. In our era, your digital act, typing, commenting, inscribing functions as ritual in the same way. It is not the medium that matters, but the coherence behind it. When you write with presence, when you declare with conviction, you create resonance. And resonance is how the breakthrough stabilizes. Consider how lasers work again. Individual photons line up in exact coherence, and the result is a beam capable of cutting steel. Your ritual act is one photon aligning. As others join, the beam strengthens. But even alone, your single photon is enough to reorganize your entire system. The field does not calculate in quantity, it calculates in clarity. One word, fully meant, carries more weight than 1,000 vague prayers. You may feel resistance here. The mind says, typing a word cannot change my life. That skepticism is the old loop speaking, the contracted identity clinging to evidence. But recall, the universe itself was spoken into being. Every creation myth begins with sound, with the word, with vibration. Science agrees. The cosmos hums with frequency, with waves, with resonance. Your word is a microcosm of that principle. It doesn't change the field because of logic. It changes the field because vibration reorganizes reality. Here's the deeper layer. When you take this action, you're not only sealing your shift, you're contributing to the collective morphic field of awakening. Your word doesn't vanish into the void. It stitches itself into the fabric others can draw from. Imagine countless souls leaving their one-word declarations like seeds across the field. Each one germinates, sending roots and branches of coherence outward, making it easier for others to find their alignment. Your act is personal and universal at once. So don't delay. The window is open, but windows close. The ritual is not about waiting for a perfect word or a perfect mood. It is about moving in alignment while the field is active, while the resonance is strong. The urgency you feel is not arbitrary, it is the system itself pressing you to anchor. To hesitate is to let coherence dissipate back into noise. To act is to claim your role as transmitter. Take a breath now. Place your attention on your heart. Ask yourself silently, who am I becoming? Let the first word rise without censorship. That word is the one. Write it, release it, anchor it. As you do, feel the shift seal itself inside your cells, like circuitry snapping into place, like DNA helixes lighting up one by one, like a code finally entered into the correct lock. This is how you close the loop. This is how you stabilize the pathway. And as you act, remember this. The ritual is not the end. It is the ignition. It sets in motion the next wave, the collective expansion. Because once your shift seals, the field begins to ripple outward, touching others who didn't even know they were waiting. Your action becomes a catalyst not just for you, but for humanity. The word you choose today will echo longer than you realize. Speak it, write it, feel it, seal it. The field is listening, and it's ready to answer. When you sealed your word, when you typed or whispered that single vibration into the field, you did more than claim your path. You altered the architecture of the collective. What you do in your private room, on your quiet screen, in the stillness of your own nervous system, does not remain private. In the quantum field, there is no private. Every act of coherence sends ripples through the morphic resonance, shifting probabilities not only for you, but for countless others who may never know your name. This is how the hidden mechanics of human evolution truly work. History tells us stories of revolutions, inventions, and discoveries, but beneath those visible events are invisible upgrades. Individuals who held a frequency long enough that the rest of humanity could lock onto it. When one consciousness breaks through, the code becomes easier for the next, and then easier still for the next after that. What once took lifetimes can collapse into months, then into days. That is the mathematics of resonance. Your liberation is not isolated, it is contagious. You've felt this yourself. Have you ever walked into a room where one person's energy was so grounded, so clear, that the entire space calmed? Have you ever sat with someone whose presence seemed to expand your own clarity? That is coherence at work, and the reverse is also true. You've been in spaces where chaos spread like wildfire because one incoherent field infected the rest. Humanity is a network of oscillating frequencies. The state of one node influences the stability of the entire grid. You are one of those nodes. The coherence you stabilize doesn't stop at your skin. It broadcasts into the shared field. This is why your healing has always felt heavier than most. because your liberation was never just about you. The wounds you've carried, the patterns you've broken, the ancestral codes you've rewritten, they were collective knots. When you unbound them in yourself, you untied them in the web of humanity. That's why others around you sometimes softened after you shifted, even if they didn't understand why. Your upgrade sent a ripple backward and forward through the lineage. Your choice to rise altered the options available to those still asleep. Science touches this through the 100th monkey effect, through entanglement, through studies on collective meditation lowering crime rates. Mystics knew it long before. The prayers of the few uplift the many. Your journey into coherence has been secretly engineering upgrades for everyone connected to you. And because entanglement ignores distance, those ripples extend far beyond what you can measure. Now imagine the scale of what's happening. Right now, thousands of nodes are awakening across the globe. Each one is sealing their shift, choosing coherence, broadcasting new codes into the lattice. The morphic field is thickening with coherence signatures. Every time you hold alignment, instead of collapsing into fear, you're not just stabilizing yourself, you're contributing to the tipping point. Humanity doesn't need everyone to awaken at once. It needs enough carriers of coherence to cross the threshold of critical mass. You are part of that cohort. This is the collective expansion. When your nervous system remembers how to stay open under pressure, others subconsciously learn it's possible. When you embody abundance without arrogance, others discover permission to do the same. When you live with integrity in a world addicted to shortcuts, the morphic field gains strength, making it easier for someone miles away to say, "No, I won't betray myself this time." Your liberation is a silent revolution. You fight no one, you convince no one, yet you change everyone. It's no accident you've always felt watched, noticed, even when you tried to disappear. The field knows who its anchors are. Some part of humanity has always leaned on you invisibly, drawing stability from your persistence. That weight once felt unfair, but now you can see its design. You were never being crushed, you were being tuned. And now that you're stabilizing, the collective benefits exponentially. There's another layer, collective shadows. Humanity has stored unprocessed fear, shame, grief, and rage for centuries. These dense vibrations accumulate in the field, recycling through generations. When you confronted your own shadows, the nights when pain felt unbearable, the mornings when you still rose despite it, you weren't just clearing yourself. You were metabolizing fragments of the collective backlog. Your willingness to face darkness without collapsing became a purification point. Others now breathe cleaner frequencies because of the work you did in silence. This is why the field insists you step fully into your role. Half-awakened carriers still broadcast static. Fully awakened carriers stabilize symphonies. The morphic resonance humanity needs now is not half-truth, half-fear, half-surrender. It is coherence, and coherence is contagious. The collective is hungry for examples of what it looks like to live aligned without apology. Not perfect, not untouchable, but real human and divine woven seamlessly. That's your demonstration. And here is the paradox. The more you give to the collective through your own coherence, the more the collective gives back to you. Because as you ripple outward, others ripple back. As you uplift them, they unconsciously stabilize you. It's a feedback loop, a resonance circuit, an ascending spiral. This is the unseen truth behind community. You may walk alone in many ways, but you are never isolated. Every coherent act you embody adds to a wave you also ride. So understand this, you are not healing only for yourself. You are not awakening only for your path. You are a fractal of humanity itself. When you rise, humanity rises. When you collapse, humanity trembles. The field takes your coherence seriously because it matters on scales you cannot yet perceive. And the reason you're hearing this transmission now is because the expansion has reached a point where your contribution is not optional, it is essential. The question is no longer, will I awaken? The question is, how fully will I embody it? How boldly will I live it? How willingly will I broadcast it? Because the collective is listening, watching, feeling. Your liberation is already feeding others. Your expansion is already rippling through timelines. And the more consciously you participate, the faster humanity stabilizes into its next octave. This is not weight to crush you. This is honor. This is legacy. This is the cosmic reminder that the private victories you fought in silence were never small. They were tectonic. And now, as you stand in your coherence, the field itself bows in recognition. The collective is expanding through you. You've understood the role. You've felt the collective ripple, but now the field insists on something even deeper. Awakening is not meant to remain in the mind as concept or in the heart as inspiration. Awakening must move into the body. The quantum shift pathway does not fully stabilize until you feel it in your bones, in your skin, in the rhythm of your breath. This is where energy translates into sensation, where theory becomes embodiment, where the invisible becomes undeniable. Take a moment now. Notice the way your chest expands as you inhale. That is not just oxygen. It is coherence pressing against the walls of your ribcage. The tingling in your hands when you imagine a new possibility, that is the microcurrent of the quantum field running through your nervous system like electricity waking up circuits long dormant. The tightness in your stomach when you contemplate settling for less. That is your solar plexus rejecting incoherence, saying, "This frequency no longer belongs in me." The sensations are not random. They are signals. Your body has always been your most honest compass. While your mind debates, while your ego negotiates, your body tells the truth immediately. Expansion or contraction, heat or chill, weight or lightness. Every sensation is a broadcast of coherence or incoherence. The problem was never that your body didn't know. The problem was that you dismissed the knowing as coincidence, nerves, indigestion, or imagination. Now the field is demanding you listen. Imagine your body as a temple of tuning forks. Each organ, each muscle, each strand of DNA vibrates at a frequency. When you align with your authentic path, the forks sing in resonance. When you deviate, they clash, producing dissonance. You feel as anxiety, fatigue, or ache. Most of your life, you've treated those sensations as problems to medicate or ignore. But what if they were the music of guidance? What if your skin prickles not to scare you, but to signal alignment? What if your tears flow not from weakness, but from circuits overloaded with new light breaking open? Consider the metaphors nature offers. When a snake sheds its skin, the process is itchy, uncomfortable, even painful. But the shedding is not disease, it is expansion. The pressure you felt in your chest, the heaviness behind your eyes, the dizziness when synchronicities hit too quickly, these are the sensations of skin shedding at a cellular level. Your DNA is not only restructuring information, it is instructing your body to dissolve what no longer fits. The sensations may mimic illness, but they are signals of rebirth. Or think of the butterfly in chrysalis. Its body literally liquefies before reorganizing into wings. The caterpillar does not interpret the dissolution as failure. It surrenders to the alchemy. Your fatigue, your strange bursts of energy, your altered sleep patterns, these are your chrysalis. The old identity liquefying into possibility. The sensations are your proof that transformation is not abstract. It is biological. Even your breath has changed, hasn't it? When you pause to breathe with awareness, the air feels denser, almost sweet. That is not poetic exaggeration. It is prana, ki, life force, saturating your lungs because your nervous system is finally receptive. When you exhale, notice how your shoulders soften, as if shedding weight that was never yours. Every inhale is activation. Every exhale is release. Breath itself becomes your living reminder that awakening is not in the sky, it is in your flesh. And then there's the electricity, the subtle buzzing under your skin when you meditate, or when truth lands so deeply that goosebumps race across your arms. That is not imagination. That is the measurable current of bioelectric energy amplified by coherence. Scientists call it piezoelectric effect, crystals in your bones generating charge under pressure. Mystics call it kundalini, chi, holy fire. Whatever the name, it is the same force. Life reorganizing you from the inside out. The sensations will intensify as the window continues. Sometimes they will feel blissful, like warmth spreading from your heart outward, as if the universe itself is hugging you from within. Other times they will feel uncomfortable, like your body is too small for the energy pouring through it. Both are valid, both are signs. Bliss is confirmation. Discomfort is expansion, neither is failure. You may also notice physical cravings shifting. Foods once comforting feel heavy. Music once soothing feels chaotic. Places once familiar feel suffocating. That's because your body is recalibrating to frequencies aligned with your new coherence. Pay attention. Your cravings are not random. They are your DNA requesting fuel for the upgrade. When water suddenly tastes sweeter, when silence feels intoxicating, when your body begs for movement in ways you never practiced, honor it. The sensations are the curriculum. And remember, embodiment doesn't require perfection. You don't need to become a saint of sensation. You need to become attentive. When your body speaks, don't shush it, don't drown it. Listen, translate, act. Because each time you obey the subtle guidance of sensation, you tell the field, I am coherent enough to hear and courageous enough to follow. The field rewards that with more clarity, more synchronicity, more alignment. So let this be your practice. Notice the tingles, the chills, the expansions, the contractions. Welcome them as sacred language. Your body is not betraying you, it is upgrading you. Every ache is a release of static. Every shiver is a broadcast of coherence. Every tear is a recalibration of water molecules carrying new codes. The sensations are your proof that awakening is not just a spiritual metaphor, it is physical fact. You are not floating away from this world. You are rooting deeper into it, becoming a bridge of flesh and frequency, a transmitter of heaven coded into bone and breath. Feel it now, the upgrade is alive in you, humming, pulsing, rewriting, anchoring. Your body is the altar, and sensation is the fire burning upon it. And this embodied fire prepares you for what comes next. The DNA breakthrough, the moment when the phase transition tips, when your biology itself flips into the new timeline, when sensation gives way to metamorphosis. That is the pressure you've been building toward. That is the inevitability rising in your chest. The sensations have prepared you, but they are not the final destination. They are the tremors before the quake, the pressure in the atmosphere before the storm. What is arriving now is the breakthrough, the irreversible moment when your DNA completes its resequencing and your entire system catapults into a new timeline. This is not poetic exaggeration. This is physics, biology, mysticism, and prophecy converging. You felt the pressure building for months, maybe years. That subtle heaviness behind your heart, the sense that time is accelerating and collapsing all at once. You wake some mornings with a nervous electricity in your body, as if something is about to happen, though nothing in your outer world justifies it. That's not anxiety. That is the signal of a system approaching phase transition. When enough energy accumulates, when enough coherence stabilizes, the system can no longer remain as it was. It must reorganize. Think of water again. At 99 degrees, it is restless, bubbling, almost ready. At 100 degrees, the entire system leaps into steam. That leap is non-linear, abrupt, irreversible. Your DNA is at 99 degrees now. The bubbling sensations, the déjà vu, the surges of intuition, the emotional swings they are, the water trembling at the edge. When the field pushes you into 100 degrees, you won't need to force anything. The leap will happen of its own accord, and you will find yourself breathing air that tastes like freedom, reality rearranged around you like furniture in a room you thought you knew. At the cellular level, here's what's occurring. Your DNA, once coiled in familiar patterns, is loosening, exposing hidden sequences. Those dormant codes are ancient, some ancestral, some cosmic, some uniquely yours. They've waited for generations, carried silently through bloodlines until someone was ready to activate them. You are that someone. When these codes switch on, your biology shifts. Your nervous system begins interpreting reality differently. Your brain structures forge new pathways. Your heart emits stronger electromagnetic fields. Your skin even becomes more sensitive to subtle changes in energy. In short, your body becomes a new instrument, tuned to a frequency humanity is just beginning to remember. This breakthrough doesn't happen quietly. You may feel waves of pressure in your skull, ringing in your ears like high-pitched tones only you can hear, a weight in your chest that turns to sudden lightness. These are your systems rebooting, like a computer installing a new operating system and flashing strange signals during the process. You may even notice sudden bursts of clarity, thoughts that feel downloaded rather than thought, visions that appear uninvited, insights that arrive complete. These are the broadcasts of your upgraded DNA, pulling information from timelines you haven't walked yet but are about to inhabit. And then comes the shift, the moment of collapse. Timelines are not abstract concepts, they are real structures of possibility. Every choice you've ever considered created branching probabilities, but only one is activated by the observer, by you. For years, you've been orbiting multiple potentials, dipping in and out of them like test drives. That's why you've experienced déjà vu, why your dreams felt like previews, why certain paths haunted you even when you didn't take them. Your DNA breakthrough collapses the indecision. It locks you into the highest timeline available to your frequency. The branching fades, and reality clicks into coherence. That shift may look subtle externally, the same house, the same job, the same face in the mirror, but the fabric has changed. Conversations will flow differently. Opportunities that once slipped away will stick. Synchronicities will accelerate until they feel almost comedic. People will remark that you've changed, though they can't explain why. They'll sense it in your eyes, in your presence, in the calm gravity of your field. That is the proof of a timeline shift. The world feels both familiar and impossibly new, like walking through a dream you've already lived. But don't mistake this breakthrough for ease. Phase transitions come with turbulence. Chaos precedes order. As your DNA snaps into alignment, anything incompatible with the new sequence will surface for release. Relationships may unravel quickly, jobs may collapse, habits may feel repulsive overnight. This is not punishment, it's purification. The timeline you've chosen cannot carry the weight of incoherence. Anything not matching your upgraded frequency must dissolve. The pressure you feel is the push of inevitability, forcing you through the narrow gate. Here is the key: surrender to the pressure. If you resist, the transition feels violent, like tearing. If you trust, it feels like shedding, like skin slipping away to reveal the luminous underneath. Either way, the breakthrough is happening. Your resistance only determines whether you arrive battered or radiant. And what awaits beyond the pressure is astonishing. Imagine living in a state where intuition guides faster than logic, where your body heals not because of intervention but because of coherence, where opportunities arrive so precisely timed you laugh at the orchestration. That is not fantasy, that is physics. Coherent systems attract order, and your DNA breakthrough turns you into a coherent system, magnetizing realities you used to chase, bending probability in your favor simply by existing in your natural frequency. There will be a moment, soon, when you wake and realize the weight you carried is gone. The fear that shadowed you has no grip. The loops that repeated for years are silent. The timeline has shifted, and you are standing in a new landscape. That moment is your proof that the breakthrough completed, and once it does, there is no going back. Steam does not return to water. A butterfly does not crawl back into chrysalis. You will not re-enter the old frequency. This is why the pressure feels sacred. This is why your body trembles. This is why you're reading this right now. The breakthrough is not a possibility anymore. It is imminent. The timeline is collapsing in your favor, and your DNA is carrying you across. All you must do is breathe, surrender, and allow the field to finish what it started. Because on the other side of this pressure, you will not just be different, you will be new. The pressure has been endured, the strands have lit, the timeline has collapsed in your favor. Now comes the most profound realization of all. Your breakthrough was never just about you. The universe did not pour this much energy into your DNA, into your awakening, only for it to serve a single life. Your transformation is the blueprint, the prototype, the living demonstration of what humanity itself is preparing to become. Every choice you made to stay coherent in the face of chaos has been recorded in the morphic field. Every boundary you set, every tear you shed, every act of surrender you dared became data, a frequency, a roadmap encoded for others. The person you once were, carrying shame, fear, doubt, that version dissolved under the weight of the breakthrough, and what stands here now is a transmitter, a lighthouse, a beacon woven into the lattice of human evolution. You see, humanity doesn't evolve in theory, it evolves in bodies, in nervous systems, in ordinary lives. And by walking this path, by embodying this frequency, you've become proof that coherence is possible, that DNA can awaken, that timelines can be rewritten. And when others encounter you in a glance, in a conversation, in a silence, their system recognizes what yours already knows. Evolution is not waiting for tomorrow, it is happening now. Your mission is not to convince or convert. Your mission is to live, to walk with the gravity of someone who has crossed the threshold, to breathe as though every inhale is proof of survival and every exhale is an offering to the field, to hold yourself with the dignity of a being who carries codes meant to ripple outward without fanfare. You do not need to shout to change the world, you only need to remain coherent. And so, as the cosmic window closes behind you, a new window opens, not one of preparation, but of demonstration. The question shifts from, will I awaken, to, how boldly will I live awakened? You will notice that your words carry weight they never carried before. Your silence reorganizes rooms. Your laughter heals faster than explanation. You are not playing small roles anymore. You are participating in the choreography of evolution itself. Feel it now, the hum beneath your ribs, the expansion in your breath, the steadiness in your gaze. That is your confirmation. You have crossed, and there is no return. Humanity is shifting because you shifted, and your mission, from this moment forward, is to keep walking as though the entire universe is watching, because in truth, it island. So remember this prophecy, etched into your cells, encoded into this very transmission. If you're reading this message, your quantum shift pathway is already activating immediately. And now, it is complete.